The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and gender nonconforming individuals to another episode of The Benjamin Dixon Show. Today is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me. Later in today's episode, we will be discussing the upcoming Republican national debate tomorrow night that's taking place in Milwaukee. We'll be discussing the various candidates who are going to be there, as well as one who has made it clear that he will not attend, Donald Trump. Also, we're going to be going down to Atlanta. We absolutely must discuss what's going on with Cop City. And in this case, we see Black Democrats in the city of Atlanta engaging in the exact voter suppression tactics from the Republican Party as they try to use signature verification as a way to block the referendum that the people of Atlanta have initiated and gathered tens of thousands of signatures for in order to oppose Cop City. Now the Black Democrats there in the city are using the exact same Republican tactics. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to talk about the wildfires in Maui, along with the tropical depression that hit California. The first of such that has hit in the past 80 years somehow has become the fault of Joe Biden. And as you all know, I am not one to defend Joe Biden, don't really particularly care about defending his honor. But when we get to the level of absurdity where they're actually blaming an act of God on Joe Biden, it really crystallizes just how deep into an alternate reality the conservative movement is. Here's Fox News over the weekend blaming the tropical storm coming into the United States of America on Joe Biden.
The wrath of Tropical Storm Hilary. 42 million desperate souls in the path of the storm, which made landfall in Mexico several hours ago. But they let it right into the country because it's Biden's America.
I'm going to leave it there because it doesn't deserve any additional comments. But what I want to do next is to juxtapose truth and reality from what's happening in Maui. In Maui, the president of the United States has shown up 13 days after the wildfires. A lot of Republicans complaining, saying, oh, this is a Joe Biden put in America second. This is America second policies because he got there too late. Never mind the fact that it took President Trump 15 days to get to Puerto Rico. And when he got there, he was throwing paper towels at people. Do you remember that? But now I want you to listen to Fox News coverage. And of course, this is not just Fox News, but they are at the top of propaganda mountain when it comes to the conservative movement. Here's the description given by a Fox News guest, basically saying that Joe Biden has abandoned Maui. And the only reason I'm really playing this is because I want to play a clip from the mayor of Maui, along with the senator from the state of Hawaii, who says the exact opposite.
The America Last policies of the Biden administration were on full display yesterday. I mean, it was the most cringeworthy visit of a disaster area that I've ever seen.
Now, just to be petty, was it more cringeworthy than Donald Trump throwing paper towels to the survivors in Puerto Rico a few years ago? Just wondering. That was the voice of Russell Fry, who is the representative, the Republican representative from the 7th Congressional District of South Carolina on Fox News, saying that this was an American last policy from Joe Biden. Listen, when there is a disaster, what the regions need is aid. They do not need publicity stunts from politicians. That said, Joe Biden did show up, showed his face, and this was the response from Richard Bisson, the mayor of Maui County, Hawaii.
How responsive the president has been. He called yesterday, asked for the help we needed. We talked a little bit about that, and within 2 hours, one of his cabinet members called me back to answer my question. So we've been getting all the help that we need. Again.
But his testimony doesn't matter when the conservative movement has an echo chamber that is completely capable of creating an alternate reality. It doesn't matter what the actual mayor said of Maui. It doesn't matter what this next clip from Senator Brian Schatz. It doesn't matter what he said. All that matters is that Fox News and the conservative movement is 100% capable of creating alternate realities. Listen in.
Circumstances were different. We do want to say mahalo to the President and the First Lady and welcome for making this historic trip in our time of need. We in Hawaii have been through hurricanes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, but we've never seen such a robust federal response. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you may never have seen a more robust federal response, but that doesn't stop Republicans from seeing what they want to see, which is an insufficient response, which is putting America second or America last response. That is the talking point. And there are so many more important issues to discuss when it comes to Maui, when it comes to Hurricane or Tropical Storm Hilary, right? We really should be discussing how these events are occurring more frequently and the intensity of them is increasing. And we should be discussing climate change and how we halt the impacts and the effects of it. But do you see how it's impossible for us to actually move the conversation forward on how to save humanity when half of the voting population in this country consumes their media from outlets that create alternate realities? It's impossible for us to, and that's the point, right? It's impossible for us to make progress on halting the effects of climate change when we are so busy trying to fact check. We're so busy trying to debunk all of the lies that are spewed from the conservative movement of this country 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it reminds me of what Toni Morrison said with regard to racism. She said the purpose of racism is to occupy your time, to waste your time, to slow you down, because you spend more time trying to address the racism and the white supremacy than actually making progress. It's the same thing here. The purpose of the echo chamber is to create enough confusion, enough competing theories, enough fake news for us to literally spend all day trying to shoot down the lies, when what we need to be doing is ending the subsidies to these fossil fuel companies. But no. What we have to do is to constantly shoot down the lies, because the lies become actionable. Here's the last thing I'll say about this. Well, two things. One, I have an even better example of the alternate reality that we have to fight against when it comes to fentanyl and the border. We'll talk about that later in today's episode. But the last thing I want to say about this particular issue is this. When conservatives' lies go unchallenged, even when they do go challenged, oftentimes they are able to move policy with their lies. I call it critical mass. It doesn't matter whether it's based on truth. It doesn't matter if it's based on reality. It could be 100% a lie. It does not matter, because the conservative movement has created the perfect system where they can say literally anything. And so long as their supporters go along with it, which they will, by the way, their supporters will never challenge a single lie from the conservative media echo chamber. And so long as their supporters go with it and they can get 50% plus one, they can get actual policies that are devastating to humanity based on their lies. So it's an unfortunate reality that we have to slow down and talk about the alternate reality that the conservative echo chamber creates every single day with every single story, because they have literally nothing that they can be honest about. They have literally nothing that they can stand on from a policy perspective, because all they have is death and destruction for humanity. So, of course, they're going to spend the entire day creating lies that they can now get policy enacted based upon. We'll be back with more of the Benjamin Dixon Show right after this.
I'm in line with the stars, I'm in sync with the earth. 10 toes deep, flower child from the turf. I never switch sides, like even when I die, I'm a ride for the squad. Let her tires in the hearse. I've been on the vibe, kinda hard to describe. I'm in between, I'm good and it's fine, but I'm tired of the grind. Then I come alive in the night to realize I'm in the middle of the time of my life.
The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Before I discuss the presidential debate that's happening tomorrow night in Milwaukee, Donald Trump is not showing up, and there are a lot of interesting characters like Vivek and Ronald Dion DeSantis. Before I talk about that, I have to talk about what's happening in Atlanta, Georgia, with the Cop City referendum that the voters, the people of Atlanta, have gathered close to 60 plus thousand signatures to oppose the Cop City giveaway to the cops. Now, if you haven't been following that story, I've covered it several times. I had an opportunity to speak with Kamau Franklin many months ago when this really was coming to a head. But Cop City is a give me. It's a participation trophy to the police all across the country. It is a $90 million, 90-acre facility that's going to be built in the middle of a public-owned forest that is juxtaposed right next to a predominantly black community. So you have a double whammy of creating this extremely wasteful spending on something that is completely unnecessary. Police get more money for training than anything else. They are the most trained institution on the face of the planet, and they still are shooting black people, unarmed black people. They still don't know how to cut on their body cameras. I'm saying that tongue in cheek because we know how the body cams work. But the people of Atlanta have a democratic right to oppose this. And it doesn't matter what side you fall. You could love the police, you could hate the police, but the people of Atlanta have the right to oppose this, and they have been organizing, and they've gathered some between 60 and 80,000. I don't know what the most recent count is. But in reaction to that, the city of Atlanta, the mayor, Andre Dickens, who is a black man, who is a Democrat, the city council, they have made it known that they have announced rather that they are now going to engage in the process of signature verification. Signature verification, which means they're going to take every single petition that was signed by someone in Atlanta and compare it with a signature that they must have on file, online, in a server somewhere, and they must compare the signature to what is on that petition, which gives the city of Atlanta, this black Democratic mayor, the ability to reject outright all of these, any signature that they don't agree the signature looks like. You know, it doesn't match. Where have you heard this before, folks? What political party, if I can narrow it down for you, has actively used signature verification as a means of specifically, even in the state of Georgia, Brian Kemp, in 2018, when he was running for governor, he was a Secretary of State. He specifically was using signature verification, and we've seen Republicans all over this country use signature verification as a means of disenfranchising black Democrats specifically, right? And now to have Andre Dickens, who is a black man and also a Democrat, use the same technique that white supremacist-driven conservatives have used to disenfranchise black people in order to block the will of the people of Atlanta who have mobilized and said that they do not want Cop City. But they are so desperate, they being the leadership of Atlanta, they being the black Democrat leadership of Atlanta, they are so committed to giving the police what they demand. It didn't just start with Andre Dickens. Remember, before this all initiated underneath another black Democrat, Keisha Lance Bottoms. They are so committed to ensuring that the police get what they want that they're willing to use the very techniques that they previously condemned. Here is a statement from Andre Dickens talking specifically about the disenfranchising effects of signature verifications. This is what he said. And he said this recently about the Secretary of State campaign that was being run by B. Nugent. This is what he said about, Andre Dickens said about signature verification being a disenfranchising, or rather having a disenfranchising effect. He said, quote, B has a strong track record of protecting our right to vote and defending our democracy, Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens said. When she was a state representative, B repealed the discriminatory exact match policy and restored the rights to vote to nearly 50,000 Georgians. And I want to give a shout out to Hannah Riley on Twitter for finding that quote. And you can follow her on Twitter at Hannah C. Riley with 2 Y's at the end. But that quote lets you know that this black man, this Democrat who is running one of the blackest cities in the country, knows full well that an exact match signature verification process is disenfranchising. And he saw exactly how that was used in 2018 by then Secretary of State Brian Kemp to beat out Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams would be the Democratic governor of Georgia right now today had it not been for the exact policy that Andre Dickens is now trying to use in Atlanta, along with some other techniques that Brian Kemp employed. But I digress. The point is this: you know full well that what you are doing is disenfranchising the people that you were elected to represent. And why are you doing it? So that you could give another participation trophy to the police that they absolutely do not need. That's going to be destructive to the environment, that's going to be destructive to the communities that are going to be displaced or shaken up because of this massive handout that's going to include a movie theater, a movie production set, a helipad. I mean, they have the works out there in order to just give the police state even more when they have everything they could ever imagine. They have tanks. They have helicopters, they have drones, they have Humvees, they have everything that the military can no longer use. They have gotten it for free through that program, and now they want more. And who is it coming at the expense of? Not only the black people who are going to have to live next to this facility, not only the environment that's going to be devastated because they're going to destroy 90 acres of forest, but also the voters, the people of Atlanta who are being disenfranchised in order to give this away to the police. This is undemocratic, and it doesn't matter what race you are. It does not matter what your political party is. When you do something that is undemocratic, we're going to call you out on it, Mayor Dickens.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
Here we go. Very special welcome to a new patron and an old patron. Welcome to Rosalind Sneed. Thank you for becoming a new patron. And Amma Robin, thank you for doubling your pledge. This entire patron party is for the two of you. Going to turn it up. Yep. Oh. You too can become a part of this prestigious and most prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you get access to our upcoming patron parties that we are revamping, revitalizing, and relaunching. Patreon.com/The BPD Show, and we'll be back right after this commercial break unless you are a patron.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I often talk about the stochastic terrorism that comes from conservative media. I always point to the likes of Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and the whole assortment of characters who are propped up on propaganda mountain. They may not be as big as Fox News, but they certainly have impact. And over the weekend, we have found that the murderer of Lori Carlton, she was the shopkeeper who had a pride flag hanging outside of her shop, and a 27-year-old man by the name of Travis Ikeguchi is the best pronunciation I can give you of his last name, murdered her. She was a mother of 9, and she was killed specifically, according to authorities, because of a confrontation they had over her pride flag. The authorities have also now traced his social media back to two people specifically, Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire and Dr. Jordan Peterson, both who have committed their last 2 years of their lives to nothing but demagoguery, specifically around the LGBTQIA community. If you recall, last year, there were death threats, or rather bomb threats, that were called into the Boston Children's Hospital. That came after months of attacks and just constant and relentless attacks from Matt Walsh specifically. But in the Boston Children's Hospital case, it was also Chaya Raichik from Libs of TikTok. They are creating actual terrorists who are going out and committing acts of violence. This was a woman who was a leader in her community, a mother of 9, who simply had a pride flag hanging on the outside of her shop. And when this 27-year-old confronted her to take it down, it ended with him shooting her and killing her. This is the violence that is being fomented, that is being fostered by the modern conservative movement. So simultaneously, as we discussed at the beginning of the show, they create alternate realities with their echo chamber. Inside of that alternate reality, you have people who are motivated by their hatred to take action. And that action has cost someone their lives. I'm reminded of the Quebec shooter who killed 9 at a mosque, who was a follower and supporter of Ben Shapiro. He consumed Ben Shapiro's media. And Republicans, conservatives, these demagogues want to be able to sit atop their mountains of propaganda and spew it to millions upon millions of people with the maximum reach they can possibly get, with the help, by the way, of the algorithm and the help of people like Elon Musk, who purchased Twitter. And the very first thing that he has been doing since he purchased it is amplifying right-wing demagogues. Those individuals are spreading their message of hate to so many, and we are seeing actual violence come as a result of it. And when people like Matt Walsh they are careful enough with their words to give them plausible deniability, of course, they'll always be able to deny that they had anything to do with it. Well, they actually have other people who go the next step, right? You're not going to get the Daily Wire to actually call for the unaliving of gay people, but they are going to make everyone terrified that the LGBTQIA agenda is coming after their kids, right? And then what happens after that? Well, you get preachers, actual preachers, who get in their pulpit and say stuff like this.
Does God say is the answer, is the solution for the homosexual in 2022, here in the New Testament, here in the book of Romans, that they are worthy of death? These people should be put to death. Every single homosexual in our country should be charged with the crime, the abomination of homosexuality that they have. They should be convicted in a lawful trial. They should be sentenced with death. They should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head. That's what God teaches.
So Matt Walsh never has to expressly call for violence. He just sets up the national discourse to include violence, because he makes everyone terrified that the LGBTQIA, the quote-unquote alphabet gang, the gay agenda is coming after your children. And when they work them up into a frenzy like that, all they need is just to hear someone like Pastor Dylan Oz that you just heard in that clip from Steadfast Baptist Church somewhere in Texas. All they need to hear is just someone to just give them that final push. And sometimes that final push doesn't even come from an actual voice outside of them. It comes from a voice inside of them that has been nurtured. That inner voice has been nurtured by the likes of Matt Walsh and Dr. Jordan Peterson, who the shooter who killed a mother of 9, a shopkeeper, a pillar in her community, Lori Carlton. The shooter was a fan and a supporter of Matt Walsh, Jordan Peterson, and I forgot to mention Benny Johnson, all three of the top leading conservative propagandists who sit atop propaganda mountain. They may not be as big as Fox News, but they have accomplished something like Fox News did when Bill O'Reilly inspired the murderer of the abortion provider, Dr. George Tiller, in 2009. These people are stochastic terrorists, to say the least. Tomorrow night is the first Republican debate, and it will have all of the Republican candidates save one. Donald Trump, who has decided that his best strategy is to not be on the stage with the other presidential candidates. That said, he also has to show up for his arraignment on Thursday in Fulton County, where he is facing a $200,000 bond in response to the indictment from prosecuting attorney Fannie Lewis, who has charged him on 41 counts there in his fourth indictment, 2 on the federal level and 2 on the state level. So perhaps he is preparing to show up for his first mugshot on Thursday, and that's why he can't make the debate tomorrow night. But I will be covering the debate. I want to play a clip from Fox News, Kelly McEnany, who worked for Donald Trump. There's quite a few people who worked for Donald Trump who are turning on him now. This is what she had to say, and this is the sentiment from a lot of conservatives. Donald Trump isn't showing up, and they don't think it's going to work out too well for him.
The indication is former President Trump will not be here, and the takeaway I have from that is this is a huge political miscalculation, I would say, for him, for 2 reasons. You give others the opportunity to shine. You give others 2 hours to throw lobs at you. And I know former President Trump can dance across that debate stage, can defend himself, but you're not there to do it yourself.
Well, the thing is that there is going to be a negative Riz value on stage tomorrow night without Donald Trump being there. Tomorrow, if I had to put money on anything, it's going to be a cringe fest where you're going to have Ron DeSantis, who's busy trying to shoot people at the border, go up against Vivek Ramaswamy, who's busy trying to be the best brown hater of black people he could possibly be, trying to go at each other. And both of them are completely and utterly corny. I mean, just to a level of cringe and lameness that is uncanny. So I'm not sure that Donald Trump is going to actually face a problem of someone coming out tomorrow night looking good. But he is demonstrating that he doesn't care about anything conservatives think. All right, patrons, stay tuned. Coming up in the patrons only episode, I've got a whole lot to cover, including Vivek Ramaswamy and his 9/11 trutherism, along with some unbelievable clips from Christian nationalists who are leaning in. I mean, they are leaning in. One clip is, let me play it for you here. They're calling for a war against the Judeo part of the Judeo-Christian values that they just spent the better part of the last 2-3 years telling everyone we needed in America. We need Judeo-Christian values. Well, here is John Miller, popular right-wing Christian nationalist, calling for a holy war against the Judeo part of Judeo-Christian values.
I believe there needs to be a religious war happening, which is because it is so pernicious, the effect that the Judeo part of the Judeo-Christian influence, which is winning over the Christian influence. And the only reason we use this term Judeo-Christian is because they want to kind of leech off of this Christian sentiment. They want to kind of be like, well, most people are still Christian, so we're going to call ourselves Judeo-Christian. But really, what that means is just Judeo. That's really the only part that they're actually abiding by.
Someone should check on Ben Shapiro, see how he's doing, as well as in the bonus show, the patrons only episode, I'm going to be discussing Vivek Ramaswamy's loyalty to his racism, but simultaneously these same Christian nationalists have made it clear that they want absolutely no parts of his faith, his Hindu faith. Patreon.com/the BPD show to get access to the next half. If not, I will see you later this week.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.